You don't want to be left looking like a fool on the 1st of April, not because it's April Fool's, but because the minimum wage is increasing. And if you haven't prepared, it's not as simple as just bumping up those salaries and wages. So stick around because I'm going to get into the top tips and what might not be discussed as commonly by an employment lawyer. Hi everyone, welcome back to Lawlands. My name is Sanam and thank you so much for tuning in to the Employment Law Done Right podcast. Welcome. As you can tell by my voice, I am recovering from a cold, but we are making our way through and we are getting on by. Between the construction and my cold and the rainy weather, there is a trifecta happening here, which is amazing for me at the moment. Today, we're going to be talking about specifically the minimum wage increase. We always see the stock standard. This is what it's going up to. This is what the living wage is. And it's just the same discussion. But I really want to keep it very short, sweet, simple for this episode, but really hone in and focus on what's important. Now, before we get into it, I just wanted to say, if you're liking these episodes, then please make sure that you follow the Employment Law Done Right podcast and make sure that you connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm going to change a little bit when it comes to posting and publishing these episodes. I might not consistently do it on the same day each week, but I was thinking my aim now will be to put out episodes every week. It may come on different days of the week, so make sure that you're following the podcast, and that way you will get updates straight to your phone and you won't miss a single episode. All right, so getting into it, you still have a few days up your sleeve and you still have time to put things in place. And worst case scenario, it's better for you to get to it at some point after the 1st of April, on the 1st of April, than to just never look at it at all. Let's have a look at if you've covered all of your bases. Now, in terms of the increase, we are looking at it going from $23.15 to $23.50. That's right, $23.50, 50 there per hour, which is going to be the new adult minimum wage. Now, when we're looking at the starting out wage and the training minimum wage, that will go up from $18.52 to $18.80 per hour. All of these rates are before tax and any lawful deductions like PAYE or student loans, all of that kind of good stuff. Is it really good stuff? But anyways, a very modest increase, which I have heard across the board from a lot of businesses. So this is a welcome increase for a lot of businesses out there. Now, I know that this is a stock standard thing. Everybody knows that the increase is happening. Employees are happy. They're getting more money, but it's really important to still let your employees know in advance. I remember I had this situation come up when I was working in advisory and somebody said, well, am I expected to send all of my 50 employees a letter saying that the minimum wage will increase? And I said, the reality is, yes, you should send them a variation letter, an email, whatever it is, to tell them that their salary or their minimum wage, if they're on just a wage, is increasing. And it's really important to communicate that because one, it creates transparency, and two, it also ensures that you've done a variation correctly, even if it's a positive change. And that will allow you to also be prepared to take any questions about take-home pay and any impacts it may have and how this could affect other employees, because there is a whole bunch that we're going to get into in a little bit where other employees have issues with this. They see that their colleagues are getting these increases and they don't understand, and they don't run businesses, so they don't really know what's going on. But before we do, I wanted to have a chat about payroll system readiness and having a look at making sure that your payroll has been updated. Don't assume that they'll automatically get updated. I think that this is a very common misconception, but a lot of employers have been caught out if their payroll systems are a little bit outdated, or maybe the payroll provider hasn't done the update that they were meant to do. It is always best to double check and make sure that they are accurate and that you have the right payroll system. Now, moving on to something else would be reviewing all of those employees, like I said, that were sitting at the minimum wage threshold. Now, you may be thinking so far, what I'm saying is stock standard, and I totally get it. Totally stock standard, completely normal. And you would assume that this is the way that you need to do everything. But I say, look at your salaried workers, because that is one area that always gets overlooked. Look at your salaried workers because some of them might be sitting on that minimum wage when you break down their salary into an hourly rate. And if they are sitting on that minimum wage, then have you considered them and have you bumped up their salary? Not to mention the fact that if they are sitting on that minimum wage, are they doing more hours than they were before? If they're starting to do 45 hours, 50 hours when they were contracted to do 40 and they're earning the minimum wage, then that means that they're now earning below their minimum entitlements, and that would be considered a breach. So make sure that you've really considered those types of employees as well, those ones that are on salaries, not just looking at your waged employees. Now, the next thing would be reviewing pay structures and pay parity. This goes a little bit deeper than your stock standard employment lawyer talking to you about the minimum wage increase, where they'd be talking about minimum wage and entitlements. What I'm talking about here is that employees that might be earning just above the minimum wage or that are on that minimum wage, they might be questioning how valuable they are. And also, other employees that might be seeing that these employees are getting an increase might be questioning their value in the workplace. It might lead to low morale. So how do you tackle this? I would say it's important to have structures in place to actually adjust your wages to maintain fair pay differentials. So really understanding that, look, this person earns this amount because of X, Y, and Z, and this person earns this amount because of X, Y, and Z. And doing pay reviews will alleviate this burden where you do discuss with your employees the reasons why they might be getting an increase and what the increase is, all of those things. And look, the reality is that for a lot of businesses out there, and I would get this all the time when I was dealing with extremely small employers. I'm talking about your mom and pop businesses. Those ones are the ones that struggle the most with this. We're talking about these smaller employers that have their employees competing, coming up to them and having these discussions with them. And what ends up happening there is that the employers are backed into a corner. They don't know how to answer this. They don't know what to say to their employees, and they're stuck. When you're trying to manage these conversations, look, the honest truth is that the increase might not be feasible for a lot of people out there. Explore non-financial benefits. And I know that this is so bizarre, but in a world where everybody's looking at perks and this, and that's a lot of what I saw online, career development and training and all of these things. The reality is this doesn't apply to a lot of businesses out there. It's such corporate speak. And I think the reality is that you need to look within your business, find the pain points when it comes to your employees and what gripes they might have around maybe certain perks and benefits. I know here and there from time to time I mentioned Kimberly, who was an amazing team leader for me when I worked in advisory. The cool thing about her was that she had about 10 years running her own business. And what was so amazing was that in that 10 years, she didn't have a single personal grievance. And the way that Kimberly tackled it when it came to these perks was something as simple as everybody gets as much juice as they want, and the juice just sits there in the fridge and they can take it out whenever they want. They might also get a free meal or a discounted meal, and that held everybody over and that kept them really happy. It doesn't have to be you get $500 of spending money every month or anything like that. It could be any perk under the sun. So that is an option for employers out there. You can discuss this with your employees. Make sure it's something that is affordable for you and also something that you are willing to provide to your employees. Make sure that you're also prepared for employees requesting a pay increase because the minimum wage is going up. Be prepared to have this open conversation. You're going to have to talk about affordability and pay structures, and just be open and honest. And like I said, explore alternative ways to show how you might appreciate the employee, what perks you could offer, and you don't have to. But in the competitive market that we're in, sometimes something as little as juice could be what keeps employees around, believe it or not. And aside from that, a couple of last things I wanted to mention, which is a little bit beyond me, but I understand that a lot of businesses have to look at this, is the business impact. And when you're looking at budgeting, look at how this will affect payroll. You need to make sure that you are going in and having a look at the holiday pay, KiwiSaver contributions, ACC levies, and seeing what this minimum wage increase will do across the board. For all of those employers out there, make sure that you are working with your accountants, creating your budget, and you are figuring everything out from there. And last thing is your pricing strategy. When I did employment law and I did advisory for many years, I didn't have as much exposure to the hospitality industry. I would get the occasional case, but it would never be to the effect that it was at the restaurant association. And what that taught me was everything runs on money, right? And everything is about strategy and budgeting. And that even comes down to the meals that are being prepared for you. And I know that this is commonsensical. Obviously, you must be thinking, Sanam, that is very naive of you, but we don't really sit back and think about it, that everything that goes onto that plate, everything that goes into keeping the lights on, the business running, all of that needs to be considered when you are looking at any kind of strategies around wage increases, budgeting, with that as well is pricing strategy. So what happens when the minimum wage increases? Can your business actually absorb those costs in terms of the wage increase and the wage rising? These are the things that you need to consider. It might be that you need to, across the board, do some small price adjustments, look at different areas of the business that might be impacted, and you need to plan ahead so you're not forced to be reactive with the pricing changes. You want to make sure that you're well prepared. But like I said, not as simple. Make sure that you take some time to communicate the increase with your employees, ensure your payroll systems are ready, review all your pay structures, plan for the financial impacts, and also make sure that you're looking at your pricing strategies as well. Well, that is it from me, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you're prepared for the 1st of April, and I hope you have a lovely day, night, evening, morning, whatever it may be, and I'll catch you in the next one, everyone.